And welcome, everybody, to another Mark Bishop Show. Well, there's a new quarterly literary review called The Continental, which features the best writings of Central Europe and North America for a U.S. market. The writings explore hot-button topics such as prejudice and faith. My special guest is Sandor Jaszberenyi. He's the editor-in-chief of The Continental and also a war correspondent who is traveling for this interview to the U.S. from the Ukraine front lines. Welcome, Sandor. Nice to have you.
It is my pleasure, and thank you very much for having me here. Indeed, actually, I just returned to the front line of Ukraine like a couple of days ago when I was flying here to the U.S., and the situation there is quite dire. It's like, while we're speaking, the Russian army is moving into central Ukraine, the eastern Ukraine, and nobody knows what is going to happen. For what are they actually aiming for? Hopefully they won't do a full offensive, because God knows then where they're going to stop. But the situation is really dire, especially on the ground level, because I have wonderful fellow war correspondents, Ukrainians, these are tough kids, and they were telling me that this is our home, we don't go anywhere. But can you help, please? So it was really bad.
Yeah.
But
I feel for them. I feel for them.
The best.
What amazes me, my friend, is before we get on with what I want to talk to you about, but before we go further, what surprises me is it seems that, Russia doesn't care about sanctions, doesn't care about its people. The oligarchs have got money, they can get food, they can get heating and whatever they want, but they don't seem to care about any sanctions, no matter how bad they really are. In fact, they're bringing in money into the country today from around the world. Do you see it that way too, being, feet on the ground?
Absolutely. This is what I tell my American analyst friends. That, kicking out from someone the SWIFT system, the international banking system, is like the nuclear bomb of economic sanctions. But the thing is, you Americans tend to forget that we're talking about people who are living for 100 years on potatoes and wearing one kind of shoes and one kind of trousers. That was socialism. That was communism. So the thing is, it's like we really don't understand the mindset of Russians, because these people were living on ticket system, and when news get out from the Soviet Union about gulags and Solzhenitsyn wrote the Gulag archipelagos, and it reached Western Europe. In Russia, they created a propaganda movie saying that we don't deal this bad with the political prisoners. And it started a riot in Moscow because, on the propaganda movie, the political prisoners were eating meat, and there was no meat at that for like months in Moscow. So the problem is with Russians, and I don't want to generalize. I adore Russian culture. I adore Russian ballet. I adore Russian dance. Name it, the culture, the food, the drinks, everything. But I'm not the big fan of Russian foreign policy. And the problem is, there's now intentions of restoration of the former glory of the Soviet Union, which is bad news for Europe.
Well, look, let me see if
I'm not really sure.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. I'm not sure that this is, this can be stopped by sanctions. Don't forget that, because of the energy crisis, they sold their gas really, really on high prices. They have money now to do the war.
We'll circle back on this. I know it is the current topic. My concern was, but I'll talk about that later. I want to get into this book and this literary magazine because the aim, as I've got it right, the aim of the Continental is to introduce exceptional Central European literature to American readership, in addition to the English language writings of the best authors in Central Europe. This quarterly also features the writings of world-famous American writers and literary giants. Does that about sum it up, Sandor, what the Continental is going to be about?
Actually, yes, it did. The thing is, when I started thinking about creating a literary magazine, I aimed to create a discussion forum, because we are belonging to the same culture, Europe and America. Though we have our differences, I think there's a lot of things we should definitely discuss and debate. And, the idea was to create a bridge between the Pacific, and the Continental Literary Magazine is not just, publishing poetry and fiction. It's about addressing pressing social issues like race. This is how the first issue of the Continental Literary Magazine is revolving around prejudice. And the idea was to start with prejudice because it's all around the news. There was a study from a Harvard scholar in 2013 which actually concluded that there's nobody without bias. So all lives are full with bias, and if you can see the movements here in America, race is a really pressing issue. And, we reached out to Professor Noam Chomsky, who great insights of how the social construct, race, emerged. It's not a solid and stable construct. And he gave a personal example, like when he was a kid, the Jew, he wasn't considered white. And it's evolved. So the race as a social construct keeps on evolving. Right now in the U.S., Spanish-speaking Americans are considered now white. And this is just a social construct of oppression. And we are addressing these serious issues, and we're trying to, create a healthy discussion between the two continents, because we have our fair share to give to the story. And I'm really grateful that, Americans are really open to this one. And on the other hand, I'm really happy that we actually can create a new forum for emerging American writers. We're not just publishing established American writers. We are not an exclusive magazine. We're an inclusive magazine, which means we are publishing good writing.
Okay.
And we are very much looking forward to get good writing.
Well, you've written, you're an esteemed writer yourself. Your books include The Most Beautiful Night of the Soul, More Stories from the Middle East and Beyond, and The Devil is a Black Dog, and Stories from the Middle East and Beyond. You're a celebrated author, Sandor, and you have received Hungary's top literary prize. What is that called, please?
It's called the Libri Literary Prize, and that's the biggest non-state funded, non-governmental prize you can get in Hungary, and I was pretty much surprised when I got it.
Yeah.
When you reach to a point as a writer to get prizes and grants, then you don't really care about them anymore because you're already doing something else for a living.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was surprised that I was nominated for that with my two books, with my second book. But the thing is, it's like I'm working as a war correspondent, never stopped doing that. It was really feeling good, but the thing is, it's like I have started writing these stories because I had to deal with the suffering and misery I've seen in my life.
Yes.
It's like, I was working in the last 20 years in every major war conflict in the world. So I've been in Egypt during the Arab Spring, in Libya. I visited the Gaza Strip like I don't know how many times. I've been in Syria, Iraq, Nigeria, Chad, name it. I've been there, and I had to deal with this some way. And sometimes you see. I think most of the time I do not see any reason in the events what's happening around us, and I don't see anything. So for me, writing is like basically fixing it. It's like if life has no meaning, well, my writing does have.
That's right.
Does have a meaning.
Well, you've been a correspondent. I mean, there's no doubt some of my listeners have actually read the stuff that you've reported on. I mean, a correspondent for European news sites. You've covered conflicts right throughout the world, as you were saying. Often the Middle East. Your writings have appeared in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Now we're talking about Kiev. You've just got back from there in the Ukraine. What's going on there? You know what my real concern is, Sandor, that I saw this maybe long before the Olympics. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm very wrong. But you've traveled the world. You've got your ear to the ground. I figured that, what's his name over there in China now, in cahoots with Putin. And what worries me is that after the Olympics, Putin would make his move, and then the other fellow would make his move on Taiwan. And that concerns me. What say you?
Well, the thing is, there's a signs of a forming alliance between China and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
What is really concerning us Europeans is, America is pretty much like divided. There's a gap in the society growing here in the U.S., and everyone is living in opinion bubbles. So there's no real discussion anymore, thanks to social media. That our main concern as the European is like will the U.S. abandon Europe? Don't forget that we were living in the age of Pax Americana, where America was stood in to bring some order to the world. And I think
I know, my friend, but America Sandor, America gets very tired of being the world's police. You understand that, don't you? A lot of people don't. And right now, I don't think they want to go to war anymore and put our farm boys on the ground again and blow legs off when other NATO countries, this is one thing I'll give Trump. You know, the guy tried like hell to get them to cough up a bit more and step up to the table. And the reality is, without NATO, where on earth would the Ukraine be right now? You know? You got to think of those things. And it's not always up to America. We're tired of war, my friend, and the cost. We've got bridges that don't work, roads that don't work. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. You know, the thing is, it's like the problem with the Russian foreign policy right now at the moment is what we see is an invasion force developing up at the borders of Ukraine. And we haven't seen an invasion force since the Second World War.
Yes, not as big anyway.
Kind of a difference. And, you know, the thing is, it's like, I mean, we had this awful joke between correspondents. It's like, you know, if the U.S. is not stepping in, if NATO is not stepping into this conflict, I mean, not the Ukrainian, but in general, what Russians are doing at the borders,
right?
We Europeans won't be able to stop them. We can stop them at Berlin because they have to refill over there. But the European armies are no match for the Russian army. And on the other hand, you know, it's like I always keep saying to this that with all the flaws, America is still the shining beacon of democracy and liberal values.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
We would like to. There's nothing else, you know. It's just. I mean, I asked conservative Catholic friends of mine from Hungary before I came here to the U.S. that what they would choose. Would they choose the U.S. democracy with, you know, all its problems, like with the LGBTQ plus questions and debates, or would they choose the Russian one? And, you know, even the most hardcore conservative friends of mine told me they would personally hand paint all the signs for the LGBTQ plus people on the toilets, because there's no option. There's democracy and there's, you know, dictatorships like what is happening in Russia or in China.
Yes.
And make no mistakes. I mean, if you race on on Western values, we will never fit in to this kind of darkness which is forming up at the borders. And this is what really scares me.
Yes.
It's like, you know, the thing is, my generation speaks great English. We read American books, we watch American movies. And we are very much embracing your constitution, your ideas of democracy and freedom. And no matter how awful you see the situation is in these states, from a different angle, you are still the beacon of light in the world.
That's
because,
right.
You know, I mean,
that's exactly right. The leaders of the world.
You can criticize as much as you want the U.S., but when it comes to choosing between the Chinese type of democracy or the Russian type of democracy, I will definitely put my two cents next to America. Because this is a real democracy, and the rest is just darkness.
All right, now look, I'm going to be out of time in a second. I know it's a very deep topic. I could go 5 hours with you, but here's the deal. I want the people to understand what you're trying to write and what you're doing. Let's talk about the target audience quickly of the Continental. What would you like people to know about this quarterly review? Where can they buy it? Where can they see it? And so on.
All right. So you can buy the Continental's first issue, Prejudice, in every Barnes & Noble's bookstore, or you can check our online website, which is www.continentalmagazine.com, and you can subscribe or you can get in touch with us. We are very much looking forward to hear about you, and the second issue will be out in early April, and our leading name is, this is what I can tell to you right now, is Marina Abramovich, and the team will be Crave, and we are very much looking forward to listen to America, and we very much hope that we created actual dialogue between the
Good,
two.
good. That's great. So Americans can get up and speak their heart out, which is a terrific thing for a European paper. Here's the deal. It's online, and that is important for people to go to www.continentalmagazine.com, and it launches in April. Correct, Sandor?
Yes. I mean, the first issue is already out. The second issue will be launched in April.
All right. Well, my friend, look, thanks for sharing. I wish you well on this. It must be worrying for your friends over there. I understand. You know what it reminds me of? I mean, Hitler started the same way, inch by inch, starting with Poland. Here's these dudes, and when you look at the map of where Russia is, and I mean where Kiev is, maps as the capital, and you look at the borderlines there. I tell you what, you're into a lot of other countries, aren't you? And that's where it starts. So I realize your concerns, and let's
listen. They won't stop there. It's like, listen, I mean, look at the Baltics, and these are NATO countries. Don't forget that they are the members of the alliance. So yeah, so it's like everything reminds you us pretty much like the
World War II,
the Germans' invasion. And this is like really ringing the bell that this is like World War II. I mean, listen, and it's not a joke if you have an invasion army building up at the border.
No, it'd be frightening.
Not a joke at all.
I'd be scared stiff, but I admire the resilience of the Ukrainian people, and no matter what. I mean, we help with weapons and help with this and that, but they're undermanned and they're going to be slaughtered. I just hope not too many children and too many civilians are slaughtered as well. Look, my friend Sandor, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Sandor Jaszberenyi, ladies and gentlemen. The book, the quarterly reviews, The Continental. It'll be online, continentalmagazine.com. You can go there now. Second issue's up in April. But the book, Barnes & Noble, okay, and his books too, so it's worth looking up. Thank you, Sandor. You take care, and when you're going back, you look after yourself, all right now?
Cheers.
All right, goodbye. Goodbye now.